Consent is not sexy, it is mandatory.
Cattle Call Podcast. Got a great new guest. Got expert Liz on today. Liz, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I am doing well. I just came on a nice long drive to come have you on a podcast.
Well, I am honored to be here.
So Liz, what are we going to be talking about today?
We're talking about sex.
Talking about sex, dude, right to the point. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me.
So this is going to be a pretty big topic, something that you're passionate about. You can talk about. So yeah, let's share about why you're passionate about sex and then why you're on today to talk about it.
So initially, I heard some friends who are friends of yours and have been on your podcast discussing that you wanted to have someone who you wanted to have a sex-centered podcast episode. And I was like, ooh, pick me. It's just a subject that I feel passionately about. I do want to disclaim that I am in no way an expert on the matter, but I do like to do my fair share of research and reading and educating myself about it. So that's the perspective that I'm coming from. I would say it's an interesting juxtaposition growing up, born and raised in Memphis in the South, and living in a somewhat Christian household, but not by any means a conservative one, not going to church or anything, but still thinking that sex was something that was supposed to be saved for marriage. And growing up, some of those thoughts and ideas were challenged as I got into college and beyond. And it's just, I don't know, like, it's just something that I think is interesting to talk about. It's so taboo, and I like talking about uncomfortable things. And I think that it's something that more people should be educated about. So,
well, hopefully that will happen today.
I hope so.
Again, thank you for coming on. Is there a moment you can look back at that kind of kickstarted your interest or your passion into sexuality?
Let me think. I would just say just being a teenage girl and living with those, I guess, societal pressures of what it means to be a girl and what it means to have sex or be interested in sex. And it just kind of sparked, I guess, beliefs in me. It's like you're taught, women and girls are taught to be pure, and to remain virgins, but at the same time, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little flustered.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
You're fine.
At the same time, there is this pressure also to have sex. And then when you do have sex, it's turned around and you're thought to be less of a person. So I don't know if there's really specifically a moment in time where I can think back. I think it's just a culmination of just being a woman living in this, or a girl living in the South, and all these ideals about sex.
So it was more of like a gradual. At what age do you think you were when you realized, okay, there's this double standard you just mentioned, and this is a topic that's not talked about, that women are struggling with, and it needs to be talked about? Was that a high school thing or later on, or what?
I would definitely say high school. Like when you're 14, 15, 16 and you start, I feel like there is a double standard between women and men, where women are looked down upon for having sex, but then men are praised for it.
Yeah.
For having those sexual conquests, and that's just something that's not fair.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just a culmination of thinking, like, having friends who started having sexual experiences at a young age, and questioning my own beliefs, like, should they have waited for marriage? Like, is this a good thing, or is this not a good thing. And I just started, I think, questioning myself and my own beliefs about what it means to have sex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so how would you define just sex? Is it just like the one act, or is it like the whole topic? Or when you think sex, what do you think?
I think that's a great question, because I think that sex is, I think it's objective, but I think largely people define it as penetration. Mm-hmm. And I think that's severely limiting people out there who do not engage in penetration but still consider themselves to have sex. So I do think that it is different to everybody, but and that's another issue when it comes to sex. And I would find that people who would grow up with this idea that you have to remain a virgin would do everything but penetrative sex.
Right.
And you have to ask yourself, like, are you still being intimate with someone? Are you still engaging in an activity that brings you both pleasure? I think that comes down to a moral issue. You have to ask yourself if that, like, where you draw the line there. Mm-hmm. But I think it can be a little bit hypocritical. And I've had those instances of people who are hypocritical when they judge me for having sex, but they're like, I'm going to do everything but, like, mm-hmm. penetrative sex. And it's okay. God thinks that that's okay. But what you're doing is not okay. And I just don't subscribe to that double mm-hmm. standard either.
Yeah. Okay, so one thing you just brought up a second ago with the idea of virginity, do you think that's more of a pressure to women than it is men? Like the concept of it?
I think that it is a pressure to both. Mm-hmm. I can only speak on my experience as a woman, but I think that there is a pressure for men, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, before a man or a boy to feel like he has to prove his masculinity, mm-hmm. And prove his self-worth by doing the deed or engaging in sex. But for women, we're taught that we should remain clean and pure. And I think that just really objectifies us, because I do think that virginity is a social construct that was created by patriarchal societies to control women and to control who we are. And we're valued more. Why are women valued more for being sexually pure, I'm putting that in quotations, mm-hmm. than when we're not? You go back to in history, like if a woman, they don't want to marry someone who's had sex. Mm-hmm. It's frowned upon, and it's just not cool, mm-hmm. man.
So how long do you think it's been this social construct? Is it just limited to America, or does it go way back before America was even around?
I think, I'm not a history expert by any means, but I do think that, and that's also hard, is like I can't speak to the culture of sex around other nations or other mm-hmm. cultures and back in the history of time, but I think it's largely religious, and it's largely I would say that it's historically was something created to control women. Mm-hmm.
So why do you think that virginity and like the pursuit of a woman remaining pure, how do you think that objectifies women?
Because I think that it makes her seem like she is more than or less than for something that she did than just seeing her as a person. I think it turns that person into an object. Like when you're looking at a woman and, oh, she's had sex, so she's not clean, mm-hmm. or not as valuable to me, mm-hmm. then you're not seeing her as a person.
Mm-hmm. So it's like less value or more value, mm-hmm. depending on where you are.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the most common misconception you think there is to, let's just say, sex today, right now, 2021 in America? What's just the biggest misconception you've seen or you've experienced?
I wrote stuff down, so I'm gonna grab it.
Oh yeah,
real
no,
quick.
you're fine.
Okay,
Go
cool.
ahead.
Because sometimes I get flustered.
I know. It's easier for me to sit here and throw questions at you.
Oh,
But,
I have like
and not
four,
have to answer.
I have like 4 pages written down.
All right, let's roll.
Hold on. Oh, one
Okay.
misconception I do feel passionately about. Consent is something I feel passionately about, and that there's a misconception that it's up for debate. And I just want to put it out there that consent can be taken away at any time. If you start out by saying yes to something, that can be taken away at any time. Now, that is a very touchy subject, but I felt it important to discuss. And then what else did I put? That's kind of like, I guess, what do you mean by misconception?
Well, I don't know. I guess there's like you talked about, there's different standards and there's different views,
Right.
especially in America, of sexuality. So I'm just thinking from like your experience, just what's a misconception that you've seen, whether it be like from your upbringing and then you became older, like, oh no, that was wrong, or no, it's different than what people believe. You know, because I know there's 2 sides to every issue. You know, and then for some things there's 3 sides, because like there's your side, there's my side, there's the truth. And nowadays, it's also like sexuality is just one of these topics and these terms that's just kind of like thrown around but never really defined. So it's also kind of like, okay, if we can define it, then we can figure out like what's a misconception of it. Does that make sense at all?
I think one misconception would be that I think there's a misconception around how women feel about sex in general, and whether, at the end of the day, I think women think about sex just as much as men do. I think that there's a conception that women don't think about it or don't want to talk about it or don't want to pursue it as much, and that's just not true. I think that we've been conditioned to think that we need to feel that way, but at the end of the day, like, we think about sex just as much as guys do. I think that's a big misconception that people don't want to face or don't want to talk about. And you want, when you look at media, like, you want women to be considered objects of sexual desire, but at the same time, you want them to remain pure. And it's like, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah, that's good. That's very good. Okay, what else do you have about the consent? I like to talk about that.
I mean, that's all I wrote, but
Okay.
I mean, what else do you want to talk about consent-wise?
Okay, and now do you mean when you're talking consent?
I know I kind of threw that out
Yeah.
there randomly,
No, that's good.
so you might have to do some editing.
Yeah, no, that is all right. Okay, so when you're talking consent, you're talking, say, a guy and a girl go to a party, and they get to know each other as the evening progresses, and then at one point an agreement's made that, okay, we can do something sexual tonight. You're saying at any moment either party can take that away?
100%.
Okay. I mean, I definitely agree. I don't think
I
there's
was
anything
about to say,
controversial
do
about
you-
it. Yeah.
I'm not going to have to throw hands here.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have anything in your notes about rape culture?
I don't, but I mean, I'm familiar with it.
Yeah.
So do you?
Well, I'm just wondering, something I think about, because I hear it thrown around a lot. And then of course I see stuff in the news, and it's become one of those topics too, about like America has a rape culture, or there's things that perpetuate a rape culture. I mean, just what are your thoughts? What do you think contributes to like rape culture and the idea that consent is such a big controversial topic now?
I would say, well, first define rape culture in what you're, I guess, discussing.
Well, a lot of stuff that you'll see. Okay, for instance, right now, Governor Andrew Cuomo is in hot water because he's had 6 women come forward, and then he made a comment, and I don't want to speculate what he means or interpret it, but he was saying that there are a lot of pictures out there of him like hugging and kissing women because the 6 woman's come forward and it's pretty much just saying, hey, if more come forward, just know there's nothing to it, because there's all these pictures of me hugging and kissing women out there, so they can just keep pulling them out. Doesn't mean that, I ever did anything that they didn't consent to or I advanced too far or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so there's one of those where maybe it's always been going on, but now because of social media and different conglomerates, we can see it a lot more. And people now with like, after the Me Too movement, people start going, oh, okay, we can call out people in power for this kind of stuff. So that they've thrown that in like this is, well, there's this rape culture because look at the way men and even women, there's stuff where you've seen with college athletes or there's been like false rape claims because, someone may have felt guilt or whatever. And they later admitted, no, they weren't actually raped. So I'm just saying it's just.
Well, to that point, statistically, false allegations are extremely rare, and we've learned. But I think that with the Me Too movement and people coming forward, it's been a really beautiful thing. Awful that it's happening, but that women and others actually feel comfortable saying I am a victim and feeling that they aren't alone. Because for so long, yes, rape has been happening since the beginning of time, and it's disgusting and it's awful, but through the power of social media, we're becoming more aware of it, and we can hold these people accountable. And when one voice comes forward and others follow, and it becomes stronger and stronger, then it's like hard to deny. Like when you have 6 people coming forward, like how do you deny that?
Right.
Like you can't. And so, like I said, false allegations are actually extremely rare, because you have to look at it in terms of women, with like Brock, what's his face, the swimmer, who tried to rape a woman and gets out of jail, like gets a get out of jail free card because they're thinking like they don't want him to ruin his life. And I'm like, well, what about the woman's life?
Yeah.
Like, it's just disgusting. Yeah, I could go on and on, but yeah, there's a lot to unpack there.
Right. Hold on. I want to talk more on, because Alex, you have anything to say with consent? We have Alex Tucker sitting here with us, by the way, who is hosting the event. Thank you, Alex.
Yes, thank you, Alex.
What are you thinking?
Well, I was just gonna want you to touch a little bit more on like the Me Too movement, on like since all these men of power are getting called out. Like
yes.
maybe just like something that, like, how would you encourage women to like identify these things and like empower them to not stay silent, like to, I guess, recognize when something is off, or just like on the Me Too movement, just like.
All right. Alex asked expert Liz to touch on the Me Too movement, like elaborate more on it.
Because we've all been sexually harassed. Like,
And
it's such a shameful thing. Like, sorry. Like,
No, you're fine.
No,
like,
you bring up a good point.
From personal experiences, like there have been numerous times worked with males, even like students have been like sexually
where
harassed,
you're just
or,
sexually
like,
harassed,
sexually undermined due to my being a woman, or if I looked a certain way, if I'm deemed attractive, then like I'm a ditz or I'm a sexual object. Like, I'm just a pretty face and I'm not intelligent enough to be like in the room.
Yeah, I totally commend these women who have gone up against these really strong and scary forces and put their lives on the line and their careers on the line to condemn people like Harvey Weinstein. And I can only imagine like that case, him being convicted, is just the sweetest of victories. And it gives me hope that we're finally being heard. When you think of Harvey Weinstein or Woody Allen or Bill Cosby, like it's horrifying. But it makes it all the more real. I only encourage women to come forward, but that's also your own journey. But yeah, totally commend these women who have come forward and said something, because that is the bravest thing I think you could do.
Do you want to talk more about Me Too movement? Anything else about it?
Yeah.
What else were you thinking, Alex?
What do you
What
think?
was I thinking? Sorry, someone sending in. What was I thinking about it? I don't know. I think you kind of touched on it.
Okay.
Because I kind of similar. Like, I think it's brave because it gives women hope that like you will be heard because all these people are being held accountable
Right.
for their
Because-
actions, and it's not just like, oh, it was a friendly compliment or.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about like my own experience.
Yeah,
Where I've
because
been, like, sexualized.
So
or harassed.
so often women, when they do come forward about sexual assault or anything of those matters, like, well, what were you wearing? What were you doing? And it's the victim blaming.
Right.
And it's like, don't teach, or it's like, what have I learned since I was little? Hold my keys between my fingers when I walk to my car. Don't wear a skimpy dress. Why are we teaching women how not to get raped or sexually assaulted and not men not to rape or sexually assault?
Right. I don't want to say anything because I probably want to use that for the opening bit. So I don't want to mess up your voice. That was good. Yeah, no, that's great. While you brought it up, let's say you have a son. In the very near future, you have a son, you got to raise a son.
Very long future.
Sometime in history, you're going to have a son, let's say.
Okay.
What is one thing you want to instill or you think you're going to instill to ensure that lesson is taught? The how not to rape. I know that seems such like a how not to rape.
That I don't know if I could answer that.
I mean, is there something that you think maybe parents need to do a better job as a whole? I can't, we can't speak for every single parent, but as a whole, parenting or corporations.
Teaching consent, teaching to not view women or people as objects. I mean, it goes back to middle school. Like, why wasn't I allowed to show my shoulders for the dress code? Like, why do I have to control my body, but they don't have to control themselves or their thoughts? Why are they taught to view me as an object? Because that's what it's doing when I'm told, oh, I can't show my shoulders or I can't show anything. You're teaching boys to then view women or girls as objects to be sexually viewed. Like, our bodies are not inherently sexual. Like, they're not. That's just a fact. And by doing that and teaching girls you need to be modest or you need to cover up, like, you're teaching people that women can be viewed as objects. And that's where it comes from. Well, what was she wearing when she was assaulted, or yada, yada, yada. I think it just goes back to showing that people are people and they're not objects.
I see you nodding. Do you want to say something before we move on?
I would definitely teach my son like boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you are not entitled.
Alex is saying teach your son boundaries.
You are not entitled to.
You're not
touch
entitled to
anyone.
anything.
Like, just because her shoulder showing, her leg is out, you're not entitled to touch it. If someone is dressing a certain way, maybe she's not dressing for you. But like, if I had a son, I'd be like, it's all about boundaries and respect and consent. You were like, I agree 100%. Like, me and a coworker had a conversation of like, because I wore like a crop top. I wore like a tank top, but just like, I was like, can you imagine? Like, I couldn't wear this in school. And it just showed my arms. There's nothing inherently sexual. Like, I'll share my own person. I've had a bra unsnapped in class, and the guy did not get.
Wait,
like,
what'd you say?
I've had my bra unsnapped in class when I was a junior in high school.
Yeah.
What was said? Hey, don't do that anymore. Alex, just move seats. Yeah. Nothing was done. I always been told boys will be boys.
No, I was talking about boys will be boys.
I developed very early. So I was inherently sexually perceived.
Same.
And, touched and harassed, and people did not respect my boundaries, and they were just felt entitled to touch me and thought it was funny. I've had guys grope me in the hallway in high school, all throughout high school.
Yeah. Yep. Or feel that they have every right to comment on your body.
And then it's take a compliment.
Well, okay, but do men ever actually give genuine compliments? Or is it most of the time when they make a comment about your body, is it perceived as, oh no, he's objectifying me? Is it genuine ever?
I've had
I think there's a difference in like, oh, you look nice today, and like, oh, you have a nice rack. Like, I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Like,
or like when you
I can perceive a compliment.
Right.
I know the difference, but
it's different when you walk up and a guy like looks you up and down. It's like, damn.
Is that good or bad?
No, it's not good. If a man approached me or just in passing, it's like, I just have to say, like, you're very beautiful. Like, I hope you have a great day.
Love that.
Like, and he doesn't feel entitled to my number or to anything else.
It's the entitlement.
It's the way you think you could just.
You have a right to someone.
Yes. Or to my number.
I mean, it's it's like when women get like catcalled, or it's like men think that they have a right to us, and I don't know where that mentality comes from, but I don't like it.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. Do you think it's ever the other way around where women treat men that way? Maybe not as common, but do you think it is something that we're starting to move towards that direction?
So I think that I don't disagree that, like, you know, a woman, if you like honk at a cute guy walking by, or, you know, does it happen? Yes. But is it viewed the same way? No. I do think that it is a bit of a double standard. Yes, because men also deserve respect. But I don't think we're like necessarily moving in that way. I think that women should also be held accountable, because don't get me wrong, like, men are also sexually objectified and assaulted and raped every day in this country. So I don't want to discount the fact that does happen.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, since we talked about it a second ago, in terms of like outfits. You're talking about showing skin or whatever it is. Do you think it is, I'm not going to say possible, of course it's possible, but do you think it is a common thing in certain contexts, like going out or a party or a club or something like that, where women will wear something to like showcase themselves, like, so that are seen as attractive by other men around? Sure,
absolutely. But that doesn't mean that they're welcoming or asking to be assaulted.
Right. No, yeah, absolutely. But do you think it's still like the heart behind it is, oh, like if I wear this, like I know I look good in this dress, and like eyes will be drawn towards me. Like, is there anything wrong with that?
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, I've done that? Have you done that, Alex? Yeah. Because if you feel good, if you look good, you feel good, and if you feel like, everyone wants to feel attracted and attractive and noticed, but it just doesn't change anything, though.
Do you have anything in your notes about pornography?
No, but let's talk about it.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's talk. What's your thoughts on pornography?
There's a lot to unpack there. Go ahead.
Are you in favor of it? Or are you against it? Or are you in the middle?
I would say, I mean, I guess it depends. So we'll say in the middle. Like, if you are battling a pornography addiction, obviously it's not a good thing. I don't think that pornography should be looked at to compare with your own sexual experiences, because that's not necessarily healthy, and you're going to find yourself pretty disappointed. But do I think that watching it is necessarily bad? No. And women watch it too, so do men. I mean, I guess it just depends on the context. But I do think that if you are going to watch porn, you need to educate yourself about where you're watching it and making sure that it is not exploitive. Even if it means that you need to pay for it, to make sure that you are watching porn that is put out there by people who are, not being exploited to do it. So get, OnlyFans is on the rise, people. So
So are you pro OnlyFans?
Absolutely. I'm pro sex work. So it's like, if you want to put yourself out there and do that and get paid for it, go for it. Like, have autonomy over your own body and what you do with it. So.
Do you think that leads to, like, let's say a girl has an OnlyFans. Do you think that leads to her being like more objectified, just in general, by other people?
I mean, does it? Potentially, but she's taking ownership over it. I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, objectification is going to happen no matter what you do. I do think that at the end of the day, as much as I wish women could do whatever they want, it doesn't mean that it doesn't come without risk.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. What else do you want to talk about with like pornography or sex work right now? What's on your mind or what's in your notes?
Well, I chatted about porn. I chatted a little bit about sex work, and how I'm a sex positive person, and I feel that if you want to engage in sex work, then by all means, like, do it. Like, if you want to be a cam girl or an escort, or if you want to do porn and it makes you happy, then I am all for it. Now, sex work doesn't happen without exploitation, and I do recognize that. But if you are someone who is actively choosing to do it, and it empowers you and you feel good about it and you're making that active decision, then all for it.
Now, is prostitution part of sex work, or is that a whole different topic?
Prostitution is part of sex work, yes, and I am very much for the decriminalization and legalization of prostitution. Now, again, I don't discount people who get into it in a young age or who are exploited or anything like that. But when you look at like the statistics of legalizing prostitution, whether it be in Europe or even in Rhode Island, where they legalized indoor prostitution in 2003, it has since been made illegal again. But you look at prostitution and you see that rape and sexual abuse goes down, STDs go down, and even other crimes go down because it's so highly regulated. And when you put regulated prostitution and you make it legal or decriminalized, it takes away from human trafficking and pimps, and it takes their business away from them, because people would much rather engage in legal and safe activity than have to go underground to get what they're looking for.
Is there like any long-term like psychological effects though? Like on, let's say there's a handful of women in Rhode Island that are legal prostitutes. Like rapes are down, like you're talking about, STDs are down, like violent crimes maybe against women are down. But do we know like how that, like what, I mean, how that affects the women long term? Did anything ever come out about that? How long was it legal? Do you know?
I think I read something to say upward a couple of years. Somewhere said 2003 to 2009. I don't know if that was actually how long it lasted. But I mean, I guess when you talk about like the psychological or mental effects, that's more of a, I mean, if they're choosing to engage in it, then they're choosing to engage in it. I don't know that there's actually research done on like the psychological effects, but I mean, there are just women out there who are prostitutes or sex workers and proud of it and have nothing and feel nothing wrong with it. So if they feel empowered to do it and they're making that decision, then that's what I'm saying. So, or you look, in 2015, a study of legalized prostitution in the Netherlands conducted and research found that 30 to 40% drop in sexual abuse and rape during the first 2 years upon legalization. So it takes, legal sex work takes demand from people who would otherwise go for like trafficked organization. And you also have to realize by decriminalizing it, you can reallocate law enforcement. You can make it more comfortable for women to go to law enforcement if they're not in fear of their lives or getting arrested. And it adds tax revenue and helps boost the economy. So,
Alex, anything on this topic? No. When you smile and nod, I wonder if you're going to bring something up. Okay. What else do you have in there that you would like to talk about?
Well, I mentioned this briefly, and I said I did want to say, like, don't get me wrong, like there are sex workers who are sold into sex trafficking at a very young age, and they don't have resources in which to escape, and they have a hard time seeking help given that they fear prosecution. And I also, a little bit of a controversial topic. So I personally think that people aren't necessarily against, or people aren't necessarily for prostitution legally because they're concerned about women and their safety. Because if they were concerned about women and their safety, they would legalize it because it is proven to be safer for women to engage in legal prostitution. But if that were a genuine concern, sex work would be legal. But because women are selling their bodies essentially for a financial gain, people are against it. And I think that comes from a place of wanting to control what people do with their own bodies.
Mm-hmm. Do you think women are still being controlled today?
In what context?
I'm just thinking like in American society.
Yeah.
Like as bad as it's been in the past, or have we made progress in like women's independence?
It's like where
to start? I mean, in some ways, we've grown, in other ways, not so much. I don't know why I still have to feel like I'm fighting for the right to have autonomy and decision making over what I do with my own body. I don't think that.
Do you mean like with abortion or just in general?
Just in general.
Okay.
We're not. Yeah. Yeah. I think we live in a sexist society, in a sexist world where women are treated as less than men. So yeah, while we have like more rights than we have in the past, there's still a ways to go.
Mm. Do you think like modern day feminism has helped that or hurt that? Modern being like right now.
I would say help it. I think, there can be a negative connotation when you hear the word feminism, but at the end of the day, we just all want to have equal rights. That's all I want. Mm-hmm. It's just equal rights.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's say you became president tomorrow. And you just had, let's say, I don't know, you have one day in office to do whatever. What do you pass? What do you implement to make it easier for women to be equal?
Send me a stimulus check. Huh? Send me a stimulus check.
Yeah. Where's that stimmy?
They did pass it today.
They did. Checking that bank account. God, that's so hard.
It's like a hot topic that needs to be addressed first.
I don't know. I mean, a hot topic that needs to be addressed first.
Like if you only have one day, so you can only hit one thing. Like, is there just one like just burning? Like we got to do it.
Are you trying to get to something?
No, I'm just wondering because when you're talking about like the equal rights, or maybe it's like in the workplace environment, or just when you're out walking on the street, or just like what you do in your own home. Like, is there one that's like, okay, this is like, I don't know, top of the hierarchy, I guess, that I would want to address first if I were president?
No. I don't know if I can answer that question. That's a lot to unpack.
That's a good question.
Yeah, it's like.
Do you have any?
I don't know.
That's what.
Like,
yeah.
I think of like.
It's like if I had one day.
Mm-hmm. You could just executive order your way into it, and it becomes a law. Like, what's one thing you do to make it easier for women to, I guess, be seen as more equal, to be treated as equal to men?
That's the thing, though, is like I don't think you can make it a law to change how people view people. Like,
I think
it's a cultural thing. It's a societal thing, and that's why the question is so hard to answer. Like, I can pass an executive law saying abortion's legal. I can pass a pay gap law, but it doesn't change fundamentally how people view women or other people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's so hard. It's like I can't just change people's minds necessarily.
This is true. You cannot. Alex, what would you do? Any idea?
Oh, I don't know.
It's hard. It's a really hard question.
You can't please everyone,
Oh, no.
And just because you pass it doesn't mean it'll, like...
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you pass something?
Like to what, the equal or level playing field for women? Well, I don't know. I'm thinking one thing I would do, this isn't exclusive to women, but I think about this with my mom, is like I would pay teachers more for sure.
That's a good one.
Yeah, my mom's a teacher of, coming up on like 30.
Yeah.
36, how old? Probably like 35 years, close to it.
They do not get
And
what they deserve.
yeah, has every single degree like a woman could have, put herself through college, got out. Like she worked like, I think like 2 jobs through college, got out. Yeah. Got a teaching, like a BS in education, went on to get a master's, went on to get like an administrative degree. She can be a principal in any of the 50 states.
Wow.
And now she's at a point where she's making like good money for a teacher, but again, she's taught for 30 something years. So, and that is one that, I mean, that's a field mostly run by women or by women, but like by the woman, and it influences about every kid, because unless you're homeschooled, you're going to have to go through public education or private education.
Yeah. That's the thing about teachers.
She's like a mom to these students too, you know?
It's like teachers don't do it for the money. They do it because it's, what's your mom's name?
Lisa.
Shout out to Lisa.
Oh,
We love Lisa.
Lisa's a lioness, dude. Yeah. Powerful woman.
They absolutely do get to be paid more. It's unfortunate because, man, teachers put up with a lot of crap.
Oh gosh. And you have how many hundreds of kids every single year. And like, you know, all the parents, like their kid is, I mean, I don't know, going to cure cancer. So like you have to make special accommodations for their kid. So like the rules don't apply. And then it just gets to the point where administration is like, well, we just want to shut the parent up. So just like appease them. It's like, well, you're not educating a kid at that point, you know? So yeah, it's not worth the health benefits and summers off. So yeah, I would do something like that. I mean, I'd want to know about all the UFO stuff too. So, but if I could do something, it'd be, especially like public education. She's a state employee.
Sure.
You know, she's public sector. So that's something the government could do something about, but.
It's so unfortunate. And even in like more socialist countries where teachers are paid more because so much is taken out in taxes, it honestly evens out to be about what they make here. So it's just, they're not valued the way that they should be. And it's so unfortunate because you couldn't pay me enough to be a teacher. So they truly have a gift. So
yeah, and you do have to love it. Yeah. Especially like the young teachers that I know about through my mom, or like, you know, we'll graduate people going to education, or they won't even have an education degree. They'll just get into it because they need a job. Like, oh yeah, like love having weekends off, love being done by 3, love having summers off, like, you know, paid vacations. It's like, oh dude, but having to put up with everything else and curriculum changes, like, you know, people change underwear sometimes. So a lot to keep up with. Yeah, I don't know, education. That's a whole different topic. Okay. Expert Liz, what else would you like to talk about on today's episode of Sex with Expert Liz?
I think we touched a lot of it.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep it like nice and broad.
That's the thing that's so hard is it's like I have so much to say and it's hard to even like narrow it all down and feel like I'm even expressing what I want to say. Like you said, it's keeping it broad. But man, I feel like we've touched a lot.
Is there any like final thought or like advice or just like a statement you could leave listeners with, like about sex or just about life, or any good quote?
Oh, I highlighted this one. Okay. I said, I believe ultimately sex should be taught as like a healthy part of life and not something to feel guilty about. And I would encourage everyone to just, I don't know, at the end of the day, everybody has their own morals and thoughts about sex, but just to educate yourself.
Well, okay, if someone is curious, wants to know more, has questions, or they're kind of in the middle on some of these issues, is there a place that you recommend they go look at, read, or a podcast to listen to, or documentary to watch, anything like that? Anything informative that's helped you? Besides this episode, of course.
Man, I should have come prepared with some like podcast recommendations.
Definitely feel like you need to check different resources.
Yeah, I would say definitely check different resources, compare different resources, look at where you're getting your information from. There are sex positive podcasts out there. There's just like information is out there for you to absorb. You just have to do the work to find it. Google is a great resource. 10 out of
Google.
10. Big fan.
All right. Any good books just in life? Doesn't have to be about sex.
Any
good book or documentary recommendations that people should read or watch?
No.
I got a couple.
Uh-oh.
You got a couple. Alex has a couple.
Uh-oh.
There's, I actually have it on my bookcase. It is.
Oh, she's going to get the book.
Uh-oh.
I'm
On
like,
the book
I
case.
did.
It is called.
Is it Wild at Heart?
No, it's called Sex at Dawn. How we mate. I don't know if you.
Hold on. Is this like a novel or
No,
is
it's an
it actual?
So I studied anthropology, so it's an anthropological study of sex and humans and like how it's natural,
I ought to read that.
like the natural.
Okay, this is called Sex at Dawn, How We Mate, Why We Stray, and What It Means for Modern Relationships by Christopher Ryan and Cecilda Jatha. Google that one for sure. And the quote by Dan Savage says, the single most important book on human sexuality since Kinsey unleashed sexual behavior in the human male on the American public in 1948. Huh. And you read the whole thing?
It's been a long time.
Been a long time. And it's good though?
It is. It's very scholarly and research based.
Oh yeah?
Yes.
I may need to read that.
Please take it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oof, I'm in the middle of a bunch of ones right now. I'm in the middle of one right now on Western civilization. So I'm into the modern philosophy section or something now. It's like near the end.
Yeah.
So it started with the Empire of Rome, and it went all the way through to like Middle Ages, Reformation, Renaissance, Enlightenment, modern science and philosophy, stuff like, I don't know. It's all different sections. That's quite the read. So
And
Was
then,
it-
of course, Goop for more
What?
sex stuff.
Huh?
Goop.
what is Goop?
Paltrow.
Oh,
Goop?
God. Gwyneth
Is it a book?
Paltrow.
No, there's a TV series on Netflix.
Called Goop? Like G-O-O-P?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a whole
That's a
other
whole other
Yeah.
topic.
That
I'm
will
like-
that will be next episode.
Okay.
That
Ooh.
can be when we get in like in depth.
In
and stuff.
depth, because a lot to say about that.
All right. Any good books, Liz? Expert Liz.
No, I didn't
No.
come prepared.
So right now we have Sex at Dawn, which is fitting for the episode. Sex at Dawn: How We Mate, Why We Stray, What It Means for Modern Relationships by Christopher Ryan and Cecilda Jatha. Something. Figure it out. Alex, any final thoughts?
Remember to just respect other people.
She said, "Remember to respect other people." That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Expert Liz. Final thoughts.
I guess I know sex is a journey for everyone. It's a journey everyone explores differently and at their own pace, and never feel ashamed for where you are in your journey. And hold on to your values and your morals and beliefs, because if they differ from other people, it doesn't mean that they aren't important. And consent is not sexy, it's mandatory. And that's my final thoughts.
That might be the new soundbite. That was good.
Okay.
I like that. We'll see. All right. Expert Liz, is there anywhere people can follow you or keep up with you? Do you have a blog or anything like that?
No.
Anywhere?
People still have blogs.
I don't know.
Ambiguity.
Huh?
I like it like ambiguity.
Ambiguity?
Ambiguity.
Ambiguity. I just
Man,
Ambiguity.
Have a glass of wine in. You can't say ambiguity.
He'll
didn't steal the
he can
ball.
he can share me on Instagram and you can find me there.
That will work
Okay.
on Cattle Call Podcast. Okay. Expert Liz, thank you for coming on. I know it was a lot. And again, I know you had the hard job and all that. So thank you for just braving it.
Thank you for having me.
And hope to have you back on soon, and we can get more in depth,
Real in depth.
on some of these topics.
Oh, yes, I'll come prepared.
No, that is okay. You did a great job.
I'll read a book.
Yeah. Here you go. I recommend Sex at Dawn.
Oh, is it good?
Oh gosh, so good. It talks about how we mate, why we stray, and what it means for modern relationships.
Wow, I gotta.
So-
Hey, Alex, can I borrow it?
Yeah.
You guys can all read it. Pass it along. It's been a long time. It's been sitting on
That's great. Yeah, really, it's dusty and it's stiff. So
That's
that's
what she
Oh, that was a softball. Yeah,
that's also what she said.
that's a good one to hit on. Expert Liz, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having
Alex,
me.
thank you for hosting. And I guess we'll see you on the other side.